All right, let's dive right in. Should schools be teaching kids how to handle their feelings, or should they just stick to the basics? Reading, writing, and math? It's a simple question, but it's at the center of a massive debate in education right now. And honestly, how we answer it could totally shape the next generation.
Seriously, take a second and think back. When you walked out of those school gates for the last time, did you feel prepared for life? Like the messy stuff, work, relationships, handling stress? Or did you mostly just feel like you were really, really good at passing exams? That huge gap between book smarts and life smarts, that's exactly what we're digging into.
Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, let's talk about what emotional intelligence, or EQ, actually is. And look, it's not just about being nice or having good manners. It's a real, tangible set of skills. We're talking about the ability to recognize your own emotions, manage them in a positive way, and use that understanding to handle stress, communicate better, and connect with other people. It's the stuff that helps you get through the tough parts of life.
And that right there brings us to the core of the whole debate. Should this stuff be taught in a classroom, right alongside history and science? It seems like it should be an easy yes or no, but trust me, the arguments on both sides get really deep really fast. All right, first up, let's tackle the case for teaching EQ in schools. Proponents of this idea aren't just saying it's a nice to have. They're arguing that in today's world, it's an absolute necessity.
So the first big point is this massive disconnect between what schools prioritize and what life actually throws at you. I mean, schools are amazing at preparing you for academic tests, right? But life tests you with emotional and social curveballs constantly. The argument here is that EQ is what builds the mental muscle, the resilience and empathy to actually deal with all of that.
Now, the second argument is a huge one, and it's all about mental health. I mean, you see the headlines everywhere. Anxiety and stress among young people are through the roof. And the people who support EQ in schools say, you can't ignore that. You can't pretend a student's emotional well-being has nothing to do with their education. And really, it's about being proactive. Instead of just waiting for a student to be in crisis and then stepping in, why not give them the tools to handle things before they get to that point? It's that classic idea, right? Prevention is way better than intervention. So what does that actually look like? Well, it's about giving kids a vocabulary for their feelings. It gives them the tools to understand and talk about what's going on inside. It makes it normal to feel sad or angry, and then teaches them what to do with those feelings instead of just bottling them up or, acting out. And this isn't just about helping individual kids. Think about the classroom itself. When you have a room full of students who can communicate better, take feedback without falling apart, and work through disagreements, well, that changes everything. The whole environment becomes more collaborative and way less chaotic. That's a huge win for everyone involved, especially the teachers. And finally, let's talk about the long game, the workplace. Because let's be real, employers today aren't just looking for the person with the best grades. The modern workplace is all about teamwork, leadership, and being able to adapt. They need people who can communicate effectively. All of those things, they are pure 100% emotional intelligence. These skills are directly linked to whether you'll succeed in your career.
Okay, you have to admit, that is a really compelling case. But this wouldn't be the great EQ debate if there wasn't another side to the story. So let's flip the coin. Let's dive into the counter-arguments because a lot of people are seriously skeptical about this whole idea.
The first big pushback is, well, it's kind of philosophical. It boils down to this: whose values are we teaching? Emotions, values, these things are deeply personal. They're shaped by your family, your culture. So the question becomes, is it a school's place to step in and try to mold a child's inner world? Critics say that crosses a serious line, blurring the boundary between being a teacher and being a parent. And then you've got the huge practical problem, the teachers themselves. I mean, teachers are already stretched so thin. To add emotional educator to their job description, that's a massive ask. Without the right training, you're not just risking burnout. You're putting them in this really weird position, somewhere between being a teacher and a therapist, a role they never signed up for and might not be equipped to handle.
This leads right into the priority argument. You hear these reports all the time, right? That in some places, core skills like reading and math are actually slipping. So opponents ask a pretty fair question. With limited time in the school day and limited budgets, should we really be shifting focus away from the absolute basics to add something new, even if it's a great idea in theory?
Now, here's a really fascinating counterargument that kind of flips the whole thing on its head.
What if EQ is something you can't really teach in a classroom? The idea here is that real emotional strength, true resilience, is built in the messy, unpredictable real world. Through making friends, having arguments, messing up, and learning from it. Could trying to teach it in a structured way actually get in the way of that natural process?
So, as you can probably tell, there are some incredibly strong points on both sides of this fence. And that tells us something really important. The answer probably isn't a simple yes or no. It's way, way more complicated than that.
And maybe that means the real question we should be asking isn't if schools should be involved in emotional development, but how. Is the answer to create a brand new subject called Emotions 101? Or is it more about creating a school culture, a safe, supportive environment where these skills can just grow naturally? Because as soon as you decide to teach it formally, a million other questions pop up. Do you grade someone on their empathy? Can you fail self-awareness? Should it be mandatory for everyone? And who's even qualified to teach this stuff? Regular teachers, or do you need to bring in specialists? The logistics of it are an absolute minefield. So we've walked through the case for EQ, the case against it, and all the thorny questions stuck in the middle. And now we want to hear from you.
It all boils down to this, really. What's the point of school? Is it just to make smart people, or is it to help raise good, well-rounded human beings? Should our schools be all about IQ, all about EQ, or trying to find that perfect, tricky balance between the two? There is absolutely no easy answer here, but how we decide to tackle that question, that's going to define the future of education.